expectations of our student athletes are that they reach their potential in the classroom. We want them doing as well as they can in school and achieving their academic goals, so in the future they don't look back on this as an experience that was overwhelmed by their participation in athletics, that they get the most out of this and they can look back at it as a very productive period of time that improve their quality of life. We don't want them doing any worse in school than they would have done had they not been participating in sports.
My expectations of student athletes is that they put together the best that they can do in the classroom, their best effort that they can make on the field or wherever they're playing, you know, on the court or on the field, and also in the community, that they're great community members. And you know, all I expect of them is that they do their best, and that they really dedicate themselves to all parts of their life that make them student athletes.
I mean, academically, the responsibilities of all our athletes is just to do their best, and that's, you know, they've got to remember that they're ambassadors of the University of Kentucky, and they represent a lot of things here, a lot of visible things, and so their responsibility is just to do their best in every way in all their classes, and that includes just the studying, the time commitment, everything that we can have them do to reach their potential.
I think they have a lot of responsibilities. I mean, obviously, just being in class or you know, playing on the court or whatever is just a small part of it. What you do off of it in terms of taking care of your academics, obviously studying, all your time management to get your rest, your nutrition, all of the things that go together to make you a great student athlete are your job when you're off of the field and out of the classroom, obviously.
We have because we have high expectations of our students academically, we do check and see how they're doing in their coursework. It's a day-to-day thing. It goes beyond even just semester grades. It goes day-to-day, how they're doing in each of their classes. We try to keep a balance between, we're not trying to babysit or just make them do things, but because there is a lot of accountability on their part and our part in representing the university, we want to know if they're not keeping up their end of that bargain, because that end is really what they leave with. It's for them. And so we keep very close track day to day on how everybody's doing, and when somebody's not meeting the needs, their own personal needs academically, we're going to do something to make sure that we correct that, even to the extent that we're going to restrict participation in athletics if we're not doing the important things that this university is all about first. I do not think college student athletes should be paid. I think that this is amateur athletics, and a lot of the things that we believe in are essential to being an amateur. I don't believe that being paid, making our students professionals, can be consistent with the mission of the university. And I think that we would have problems, one, with being able to pay them. You know, this supposedly is a non-profit thing. The money that we get in athletics gets pumped back into programs for all our student athletes. If we were to take that money out, you know, and put it back in student athletes' pockets as pay, it would restrict what we could do with our athletes in sports that maybe don't make as much money, and that would result in a lot of people saying, why do you have sports that don't make money? Why don't you just have football and basketball? Which then, you know, and we have to have all our sports, treat them equally, because we aren't about money, and we need to be compliant with Title IX and give equal opportunity to men and women's sports and men and women individuals. So the whole pay thing, not only do I not believe it's consistent with what we do, but I also think it's not really possible. It wouldn't work out within the realm of our resources and how we do things.
It's an amazingly complex question, you know, because the question is, what is pay me? And I'm assuming that you mean, you know, pay in addition to scholarships, etc. And obviously the NCAA has been examining the issue. I think the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit right now is going to play a huge part in the long run. And you know, I think more important than my personal opinion is what happens in the court case right now. You know, I feel very lucky to be at an institution that I know can financially support such an issue if it comes about, and in a conference that has traditionally said we will support such a thing. But you know, until we get through all of these issues, legal and otherwise, right now, I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with it.
Most student athletes are under scholarship or receive talent grants. Scholarships student athletes receive make college tuition and housing cheaper, or in many cases, free of charge. There are still, however, costs that come with going to college outside of tuition and room and board. In some ways, student athletes are like regular college students. Like most college students, student athletes want to socialize with friends. Living the college lifestyle can be expensive, and scholarships usually don't cover costs from going out to eat and other forms of entertainment. While student loans leave college graduates in debt, a little debt is not devastating. With athletes often having tuition, room, and board paid for, their debt is much more manageable.
The fall semesters, I have class from 1 until the evenings. Practice is usually in the morning, and in the spring times we have practice in the morning and class all day in the afternoon as well. But I think that's going to change this fall with the new coaching staff, and we'll have school in the morning and practice in the afternoons.
They're dependent upon the season. In the fall we have soccer practice in the morning and have classes in the afternoon, and practice usually lasts for around 3 hours in the morning. And then in the spring we have workouts in the morning and then go to class and then have training in the afternoon and then have academic hours and stuff at CATS and then every other hour of the day.
My practice schedule is I wake up earlier in the morning and get everything I need to get done with football before around 12 o'clock. And then after that, it's time for my classes and my tutors and that kind of thing.
Basically, we get up early in the morning. That's really, cutting back on our sleep. So it's kind of hard for us. Practice time is normal as everyone else, but most teams practice in the evening. But we have to get up in the morning. People still be asleep from the other day. So
practice Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Mondays and Fridays we practice from 1 to 5, and Tuesdays and Thursdays is 2 to 6, and Sundays is 10 to 2.
Well, I've been a football player my whole life, so all I know is football, but I'm pretty sure that all the sports work equally as hard toward their individual sports, just because we're all passionate about it, and I can't knock anybody else for their work ethics either. So
here they do a lot of stuff that's sport specific, but I feel like with soccer and the endurance that it requires, they have to train a little bit differently as an endurance sport and a sprint sport, and strength and conditioning and agilities are extremely important, so we kind of incorporate a little bit of everything.
I feel like our conditioning is pretty extreme. There's been days when I've been out there and I've just been questioning if this is really what I wanted to do. It's just been that hard.
I feel that our sport conditions are more because basically every time we step out there, we're putting our life on the risk, because the wrong move, you can either paralyze yourself or it could be career ending.
I think all conditioning is kind of equal throughout the sports. It's always based on what sport you are, and it's always sport specific. So I think our conditioning is intense, and I think it's extreme for us. But if you were to look at soccer, like we couldn't run like soccer could, and they probably couldn't lift like we could, or things like that. It's just sport specific. So I don't think it's more extreme than the other sports. It's just different.
I feel like most sports are treated fairly, I guess because of some accolades that maybe other sports have achieved. They get a little bit more publicity, but I guess it's well deserved since they did accomplish a lot.
I think the opportunities that are handed to each sport here are equal and are fair, but I think that the publicity and everything depends on the popularity of the sport in the area, in the community.
For the most part, I think the basketball team gets a little bit more special treatment, but nothing that I feel like they haven't earned, except from maybe last season. But I mean, when you're the national champions, you earn the opportunity to walk out with your chest a little bit higher than everybody else's.
I mean, yeah, except the basketball team, but other than that, yeah, all the rest of the sports are treated fairly. Like the basketball team, they get carried to class. They can have a losing season, they still get dropped off in class and stuff, in carts and stuff. Everybody else walk, you know, like everybody else.
Yes, I would say I think all sports are treated fairly through like the athletic department. Definitely, I think sports are treated fairly. I mean, you're always going to have basketball like a little bit up on a pedestal just because of their dynasty, but besides them, I do think that everyone's treated fairly.
I feel like they would, like, especially because it's BBN. Like, we got a lot of fans, and they all care about all of our athletes. So I feel like they get a lot of love and support.
I think that depends on the sport, but I feel like in a sport that's as popular as basketball or football, I feel like, especially with Big Blue Nation and the community around us, that they would get the same treatment and receive the same publicity for such an event.
No, just because in football, injuries happen. It's a part of the game. With Kevin Ware incident, I think it's just a freak accident. You rarely see just a protruding bone out of someone's skin. I think is what made it such a big deal. And it happened in the Final Four, and just everything that happened before it was just set up for a bigger incident than it really was. As to say, I'm not saying the injury wasn't bad, but I feel like the situation made it a lot more public than what it really was.
I mean, you know, with the Kevin Ware injury, that don't rarely happen. Like somebody breaking their leg in two places, like on national TV, that rarely happens. But if it happened in football, you know, they'll probably look at it for a minute, but they'll get rid of it because, you know, injuries like that happen every day in football.
No, not at all. I mean, this year actually we had one of our teammates get injured really badly, and she had to be medical for her senior year, and I mean, nobody on campus even knew about it. I don't think our sport is as widely televised or as widely loved by the media, so I don't think that if something like that were to happen in gymnastics, that it would be as famous as Kevin Ware.
Student athletes have a lot of responsibilities. They have to manage their time carefully due to team commitments and classwork. Many think the scholarships student athletes receive are not fair compensation for their efforts. The National Collegiate Athletic Association generates over $1 billion a year. While football and men's basketball are the only sports that generate any kind of significant money, the NCAA itself is still incredibly profitable. The NCAA makes $777 million from a 3-week tournament. To put that in perspective, the National Basketball League makes about $930 million over 6 months from TV rights. But unlike professional leagues that make similar profits, NCAA athletes are not directly compensated for their efforts.